Wow. Seriously, that's all I'm gonna say. Wow. Daytona Day just happened. Daytona 500, highly anticipated 2021 season, off to a bang, though not the bang that I expected, or we all expected. Michael McDowell won, which means that my playoff bracket and almost everybody else's playoff bracket is already busted. I believe people out there who are even McDowell fans, they didn't got him making the playoffs. But yeah. Anyways, Daytona, what happened? Cloudy skies, chance of rain, just like last year. Lap 13 started out, drivers being aggressive, and Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, they bomb draft. Bell doesn't hit Almirola square through because he can't keep the car straight, because Kyle Busch just gave him a big shove. Bell cannot keep the car straight. Almirola, he just crashes, collides Bowman, and the big one. Basically, the big one happens. Half the field is gone. Ryan Newman, Ryan Blaney, Almirola, Bowman, and Byron, Reddick, just like that. They are all wiped out. Or at least, not all of them DNF, but most of them did. And the ones who remained were like a lap down for the rest of the race. They were basically out of contention anyways. So then, lightning strike. 30-minute red flag, but then rain started pouring down. Then the 30-minute lightning clock was up. Jet dry started on the track. It started drying up the track. Rain fell down again, so the jet dryers, of course, kept on it. And rain fell down again, and people thought that the track was lost. And people were speculating at a 4 p.m. start time on Monday, which of course a lot of people didn't like. Most NASCAR fans have felt for a while now that all day races at least, should be starting at noon. But of course, that's not NASCAR's decision, that's the network's decision. And the main reason why the network is doing this, Fox and NBC, it's pretty simple. They want to get eyes on people on the West Coast. They want to get that big West Coast market. They've been doing this for years though. Ever since 2005, NASCAR has been moving start times a bit later to get people on the West Coast interested. Of course, that hasn't worked. It worked for the first few years, but then as the 2000s ended and we ended up getting to the 2010s, that ended up fading. Now, of course, Fox and NBC do it because they are literally the definition of insanity. If it didn't work once, why are you going to try again? Especially now when NASCAR doesn't have as many eyes as they used to 15 years ago. I don't understand. But of course, I can understand why people are pretty split on this. Many people say that it's not a problem. Other people say that it is, because back in the 90s, races were starting at noon. But of course, other people that say, well, if the races start at noon on the East Coast, that means that people on the West Coast have to wake up at 9 a.m. to watch the race. And you don't know, maybe these people have to go to Sunday church, or they don't even wake up at 9 a.m. at all. And also people say, who the hell's gonna wake up at 9 a.m. for a NASCAR race on the West Coast? There are NASCAR fans on the West Coast. It's just not as many as the network will like. That's why they want to get more eyes by just moving the East Coast, by starting the races later, so the people on the West Coast can watch the race at noon. But the thing is, most of the NASCAR fans are on the East Coast, and of course this has been angered because now the Daytona 500 has been starting at 3 p.m., 4 p.m., back when it started at 1 p.m., at noon. And of course this gets some people feeling some type of way. And to be honest, I'm on their side, because there are fans out there from the West Coast that I have been interacting with on Twitter, and they have told me from what I have seen, they have said that, well, sure, the races start early, but it's not a problem. I just wake up early. It's like Saturday morning cartoons. If you wanna watch them, just gotta wake up early. And the thing is, if you think that NASCAR fans on the West Coast have it bad, think about the Formula One fans in the US. Not just on the West Coast, but in the US as a whole, because Formula One races in Europe, and most of the times Europe is what, a 5 to 8 hour difference, depending on which where in the USA you live. Europe has a 5 to 8 hour difference, and that basically means that the races are going to air at like pretty extreme times. For example, you may be watching Formula One race at 5 a.m., at 4 a.m., which means you're gonna have to be waking up super early, or even not sleep at all, just to watch a Formula One race. So yeah, Formula One fans have it way worse, but again, that's because they're diehard fans. Not everyone on the West Coast is a diehard NASCAR fan, and not everyone has NASCAR as their priority. So I understand why the West Coast fans are fine with watching the NASCAR race at noon, at the expense of the East Coast fans watching the NASCAR race at 3 p.m. But the thing is, the East Coast is a bigger market for NASCAR than the West Coast. And the last time NASCAR tried to branch out to a bigger market, they failed, and they ended up not only gaining new fans but also losing their core audience. So I don't feel like NASCAR should experiment more with starting the races in the afternoon or late afternoon just for them to end in prime time. In my opinion, they should just go back to what it worked. Go back to noon, 12 p.m. starting time. So yeah, that's basically all I have to say about this whole debacle about starting times on the network. Moving on with the race. After the race restarted, everybody felt that the track was lost. Hooray, because I didn't want to watch a race 4 p.m. I didn't want to wait until 4 p.m. on a Monday to watch the rest of the race. So I was pretty happy that the race was actually finished on Sunday. Technically on Monday, because the race went on till midnight, I believe. But yeah, we were able to watch the end of the race all in one go. And let me tell you this, the racing was pretty bad. The track conditions, the fact that the track was just it was a green track, it was a new track, basically because the track had been washed out, coupled with the fact that aggressive moves early on caused drivers to get scared. This meant that stage 1, most of stage 1 and stage 2 was single pack racing, choo-choo train, as Black Flags Matter calls it. And of course, immediately it became very apparent that this Daytona 500 was going to be one of the worst Daytona 500 since 2013, and it's pretty up there. In my opinion, the 2021 Daytona 500 is clearly a bottom 3. It's right up there with 2013, but still, nothing is beating the 2000 Daytona 500. That race was atrocious. But when it comes to 2013 versus 2021, I'll say that 2021 has a good case to be worse than 2013, because at least in the 2013 Daytona 500 there wasn't a big one in the first 15 laps that took out like almost half the field. 2021 did, and it killed all of the excitement, because already half the field is gone just starting the race, which means that there are less people to root for. And of course, in my opinion, I'd rather have the big one happen late in the race instead of early on in the race, because the more cars there are in the race, the more it keeps me interested, the more it keeps me engaged. Of course, I don't want a big accident to happen, period, but if I had to choose, we'll have the big one be later on in the race. I don't like it when it's early on in the race. That's such a big turnoff for me. But I digress. Anyways, all of the racing was just single file. The only lead changes were on the end of the stage and during green flag pit stops. And let me tell you, the strategies some of these teams made, were pretty wacky. There was, for example, of course, the Fords were pitting, Chevrolet's pitting, Toyota's pitting, but you see the Fords just pitting first, and then the Chevrolets and Toyotas just hanging around for like 5 to 6 more laps. And of course, this allowed the Fords to get a jump on them, because in super speedways, the earlier you pit, the better. Tires weren't an issue, of course, because this is a super speedway. You're gonna be keeping your foot on the throttle almost the whole race, so why not? So 2 tires or fuel was the name of the game. I rarely saw 4 tires change. Maybe a few drivers experimented with that, but that was during the stage break. I didn't saw it. I wasn't paying attention much during the race until stage 3, specifically during the moment that Denny Hamlin lost the lead coming off of pit road. And let me tell you this, the Toyotas, that last pit sequence by the Toyotas was so uncoordinated. I think the team orders by manufacturers should go, because I don't think they work a lot. Because by the end of the day, it's a super speedway. You may be working together because you're from the same manufacturer, but when it's go time, it's go time. Look what happened in the final lap. It was 3 Fords wrecking each other for the win, basically. So at the end of the day, the Toyotas lost the lead because they just couldn't get together and hold on the Fords. The Fords picked them apart one by one, and it became pretty apparent that the race was going to come down to one of them. Eventually, moves were started to be made with around 3 to 2 laps to go. Keselowski, McDowell, Austin Dillon were coming in hot, and eventually in the final lap, Michael McDowell, he does the same thing that Kyle Busch did to Christopher Bell. He shoves Brad Keselowski into Logano, and they both wreck. And then, since Keselowski went airborne on the catch fence, and then Kyle Busch hit him, and the car caught fire immediately. It literally exploded right before my eyes. Of course, there were a lot of people that said, why not let them race back to the line? Look, if there is fire or a car hits the catch fence, I think NASCAR should throw out the caution flag immediately. So I do not blame NASCAR for the decision they made. I think it was the right call. And of course, this ended up with Michael McDowell winning, since he was ahead at the time of caution, which means that he wins his first career race, and my playoff bracket is busted. And also, whoever bet on Michael McDowell to win this race is a freaking genius, and I want you to please DM me the lottery numbers. My DMs are open. So of course, this has got a lot of people saying a lot of things, particularly about the whole blocking stuff and how people are getting a huge run with this new package. It's easy to get a huge run. It's especially easy to get a huge run in the draft with this package because there are no restrictor plates. The engine, I believe, is 550 horsepower. It's a lower horsepower engine, which means that the cars go slower without restrictor plates, which is why NASCAR opted not to use them for the super speedway races. But the fact that there are no restrictor plates means that cars can just lay back and then build up a huge run to overtake the leader. And the leader is just a sitting duck. It has no other option but to just let themselves lose the lead, or try to pull a block that is most likely going to fail because the car behind you has a big run, and you're going to end up triggering a massive wreck, which is what happened today. And I also want to talk about the safety aspect because, oh my gosh, that was such a horrific accident. The moment Keselowski got hit by Kyle Busch and the car exploded, it gave me 2012 Juan Pablo Montoya flashbacks. And it was also in the same spot because that wreck happened entering turn 3, just like the jet dryer incident. That wreck was scary. Kyle Busch hitting Keselowski was also scary because, Almirola, Kansas 2017, I feared that Kyle Busch had broken his back for a moment there. Thankfully he didn't. Both drivers are okay. Of course, I cannot thank NASCAR enough for the safety advancements, but I do not want them to get complacent because safety never ends. Safety has to evolve. Modern innovation, modern technology, that should apply to safety as well. And I think that NASCAR has to investigate how to stop these drivers from getting these massive runs in the draft, because if they don't want to return to the restrictor plates. I don't think they will, because a 550 engine with a restrictor plate would just make for pretty slow pack racing that I wouldn't even bother watching that. But still, enough is enough. I think NASCAR needs to find ways to improve on their safety, because my God, we have already had 2 scary accidents in back-to-back Daytona 500s to the drivers aggressively blocking. Now, of course, this one didn't look as bad as the Ryan Newman crash last year, especially because Keselowski and Kyle Busch walked away unharmed. Ryan Newman, we had to wait 48 hours to see him walk out of the hospital. But still, that crash was nothing short of vicious. And I'm just at a loss for words, guys. I cannot explain how shocked I was at that. And seriously, NASCAR needs to do something. I know NASCAR doesn't do anything unless a driver dies, which I don't want it to come to that. I think NASCAR has to be proactive and take action now. They need to find ways to reduce the speeds these cars get in the draft, so that when you block someone, it doesn't trigger a massive incident. I don't want NASCAR to ban blocking. I don't want NASCAR to just say that you cannot block or it's a penalty, because blocking is part of racing, and it is also more of a natural instinct of the driver. For example, when Carl Edwards threw that block at Homestead in 2016, it was for a championship. He threw that block without thinking, because hey, I gotta win this championship. I gotta do whatever I can to protect the lead I have over Joe Logano. Joe Logano did the same thing, and Joe Logano is a driver that is very aggressive at plate tracks. He drives by instinct. He is a driver that relies on his instincts to drive. And on that last lap, of course, Joe Logano threw a late block, but that was because of his instincts. His instincts were telling him to block no matter what. Of course, that block failed, but do I blame Joe Logano for blocking? No, it's the final lap. Of course, that block was gonna fail given what I have already said about the package, but you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I don't hold it against Logano for not wrecking, for blocking. I don't blame Michael McDowell for wrecking both Penske cars. He did what he had to do to win. I do not hate the player, I hate the game. And the game of building a huge run in the draft is very dangerous, because it's gonna lead, what if somebody aggressively blocks you, especially on the final lap? Are we gonna see this on the final lap of every super speedway race? I don't want to see that, because it could eventually lead to another serious injury like the one we saw from Ryan Newman, or even worse, death. And I don't want to see that. We already lost Dale Earnhardt, and I thought the NASCAR learned their lesson from that. So in order for NASCAR to prove that they are still committed to safety, they need to improve now. They cannot let this go any longer. Enough is enough. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I wasn't a semi-rant there, but NASCAR's back, baby.